Good Thursday morning, and thank you for joining us here on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Jason Hackett. Let's get to your headlines. We continue to follow breaking news out of Minneapolis. Police tell us one person is in the hospital following a shooting overnight. This is the scene on Emerson Avenue North just after midnight. Right now, we're waiting to learn more details from police. We'll bring you those as we get them. This morning, changes are coming to Minnesota as they take steps to combat fraud exposed in a KARE 11 investigation. The investigation uncovered fraud in the state's Housing Stabilization Services program. And in the last 24 hours, an assistant commissioner was fired and a new executive order signed aimed at turning things around. Michelle Beck has a closer look at the fallout.
You are waking up to major changes at the Department of Human Services. A top official terminated from a program our I-team exposed for fraud. I'm talking about the state's Housing Stabilization Program, which aims to help homeless people find housing. The assistant commissioner overseeing that program is now out. There's also a brand new executive order. It directs DHS to take a number of measures to prevent fraud, even creating an inspector general council to improve coordination across agencies. In the last 24 hours, we also watched members of a House committee question state officials why they didn't act sooner when repeatedly warned of fraud. And also at the hearing was the heart of the story.
I think I speak for everyone in the recovery community when I say that we are sick and tired of the rampant fraud and people getting rich off the backs of our addiction. My hope is that by doing this, others will tell their stories and real change will be made so something like this never happens again.
That was Rachel Lean, who shared her story first with our investigative team earlier this year and called out fraud. We heard lawmakers thank her yesterday for sparking the conversations leading to all these changes. Back to you.
Michelle, thank you. This morning, we're waiting on a decision involving a restraining order against Hamoud Sabri. He's a Minneapolis landlord who has been allowing a homeless encampment on his property. A judge says he's planning to make a ruling by Monday. The battle over that encampment hit a boiling point after 7 people were shot there earlier this week. Crews cleared the parking lot on Lake Street and 28th Avenue yesterday, and the city wants it to stay clear. City officials argue that drugs, waste, open fires, and a lack of water and sanitation at encampments on Sabri's land are putting people in danger.
This is an extreme and dire situation here. And I think that the events of the last 48 hours have really put a spotlight on what can happen when these kind of situations are left unchecked.
The attorney representing Sabri's company says the city is just as responsible for the living conditions in which homeless people are living.
The real nuisance, as far as the city is concerned, are the people that have nothing.
We reached out to both the city and Sabri following the hearing. A city spokesperson says they're, quote, pleased Sabri promised that he will not allow any more encampments until the court's ruling. Sabri also released a statement saying in part he's inviting the mayor and other leaders to engage in a public forum to, quote, address this crisis openly. This morning, a massive fallout after ABC announced it's pulling Jimmy Kimmel Live indefinitely following his comments on Charlie Kirk and President Trump. The decision sparking both outrage and support. Audrey Russo's at the live desk tracking it all.
Yeah, according to Disney-owned ABC, Jimmy Kimmel Live is suspended indefinitely, but CNBC is reporting Kimmel has not been fired, citing sources close to the host. Now, this all comes as free speech protests are planned in LA near the theater where the show is taped. And this all started when Nexstar, the owner of 10% of all ABC-affiliated TV stations, threatened to preempt Kimmel's program after the host made comments about Charlie Kirk's alleged shooter. Now, Charlie Kirk was a conservative speaker and advocate of President Trump. The FCC chair under President Trump posted on social media applauding Nexstar's statement. But a different commissioner with the agency is speaking out this morning, calling this whole ordeal a suppression of free speech.
We must be careful not to allow the government to punish critics simply because of content. This sets a dangerous new precedent, and companies must stand firm against any efforts to trade away First Amendment freedoms.
Now, Nexstar is currently seeking approval with the FCC for a multi-billion-dollar merger with Tegna, which owns KARE 11. So the political question being raised here, is Nexstar trying to curry favor with the Trump administration's FCC in order to allow that deal to go through?
Audrey, thank you. New overnight, Minnesota Representative Ilhan Omar will not face censure for her comments against Charlie Kirk. The House took a vote last night on the issue, with 4 Republicans crossing the aisle against the resolution, which would have stripped her from committee assignments. All of this began with South Carolina Representative Nancy Mace making claims that Omar smeared Kirk. Omar says Mace is pushing a false narrative. Developing now in central Pennsylvania, the community is mourning 3 police officers killed when a man opened fire on them. 2 other police officers are recovering this morning from their wounds. This happened just after 1 yesterday afternoon in York County, about 2.5 hours away from Philadelphia. Authorities say the officers were trying to arrest a man and serve a restraining order when he started shooting at them. They say he was wearing camouflage and waiting in a cornfield when officers arrived. Witnesses describe a chaotic scene.
When I got past the barn, I heard gunshots, and I was on the road, and then I pulled off, and I just saw a lot of chaos and saw some bodies.
The shooter was killed by police. Attorney General Pam Bondi says federal agents are investigating. This morning, President Trump is on part 2 of his second state visit to the UK. He's turning his focus now to trade and the global economy after a lavish state dinner and ceremony, while protesters in the UK are calling for change. Alice Barr is in London with the latest.
Good morning. Today, some of the pressing issues that have been lurking in the background of all the royal splendor take center stage as President Trump meets with the UK Prime Minister, with foreign wars and trade topping the agenda.
It's a great honor.
President Trump turning to politics today after the pomp of a lavish royal banquet, capping a day of high ceremony in his unprecedented second state visit to the UK.
This is truly one of the highest honors of my life.
King Charles and the royal family treating the president and first lady to carriage rides and an elaborate military display in a clear effort to strengthen ties at a critical moment.
As tyranny once again threatens Europe, we and our allies stand together in support of Ukraine to deter aggression and secure peace.
Solidarity for Ukraine top of mind as the president meets today with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer at his country residence.
Donald Trump, you can't hide!
Away from the protests in London, focused also on the escalating war in Gaza. Prime Minister Starmer planning to formally recognize a Palestinian state after President Trump's visit, a move the president opposes. Looking for common ground through commerce, the 2 leaders working to refine the U.S.-UK trade deal.
With this agreement, our cherished friendship with the United Kingdom is getting stronger and stronger.
Joined today by a who's who of top American tech CEOs amid a Trump administration push to increase AI exports to allies and a newly announced U.S.-UK tech pact to advance AI and nuclear technologies, forging future ties in a long, enduring alliance.
President Trump and Prime Minister Starmer are set to end the day with a press conference before the president boards Air Force One, returning to Washington tonight. In London, I'm Alice Barr. Back to you.
The Minnesota Lynx Drive for 5 presses on. This morning, the team is heading back home after advancing to the WNBA semifinals for the second year in a row. They defeated the Valkyries on the road in a late-night Game 2. But the road to victory was not easy. In fact, the Lynx were down for the first 3 quarters of the game by as much as 17 points. But they kicked things into high gear in the 4th, led by Napheesa Collier. And in the last seconds, Golden State missed a buzzer-beating jumper, ending their season and giving the Lynx the win, 75-74.
It was very stressful, but we're a very resilient group. We had to lock in, and that's what we did. Believe it.
Feels great. I told the team before, I'm just proud of our heart. You know, there's 3 other teams that was in this position, and they didn't have the heart that we had to pull it out on the road like this. So I'm super, super proud of the team. This was a really fun night.
So we'll find out tomorrow who they'll face next, following the series between the Mercury and the defending champs, the New York Liberty. Give me the Liberty. Revenge is on my mind. Stick with us. More news and weather coming up after the break.